Like the Batman, Morbius is a classic American tale of personal trauma, existential agony, regenerative violence, and bats. Once again, the trauma reaches to childhood, though in this case it involves the young Michael Morbius being treated in a Greek children's hospital for a rare blood disease. Why Greece? I have no idea. There he had a sympathetic doctor, Jared Harris, and befriends a boy he calls Milo, who has the same disease. Milo grows up to become a Louch Moneybags played by Matt Smith, who's best known for playing Prince Philip in The Crown, a bit of casting history that gives his role here amusing tank filmmakers Daniel Espinosa directed, from a story and script by Matt Sazama and Burk Sharpless, reference earlier Bloodsuckers, tucking in nods both to Bram Stoker's novel, and to F.W. Murnau's silent film Nosferatu. But Morbius is a hybrid creation, one that recasts Dracula as a kind of contemporary Dr. Frankenstein figure, if one who, like Peter Parker, is transformed by his encounter with another species. Once Morbius goes batty, everything becomes increasingly more complicated and violent, and while bodies fall in moss, and one character revels in carnage, the movie doesn't get off too gleefully on its mayhem. All the greatest metaphorical hits are present in Matt Sazama and Burk Sharpless's script, as well as in Leto's performance. Vampirism is illness. Check. Vampirism is addiction. Yup. Don't ask for much in terms of actually developing these themes, however, as the film's approach is to point and yell, "Look over there," whenever things get complicated. A superhero whose murders are the direct result of his attempts to help people presents a complex moral dilemma. But you wouldn't know it from this film, which takes any intriguing elements of its title character's story, and flattens them into cliched grandstanding about the obligation of the privileged few to protect the unsuspecting man. The film's over-reliance on digital effects isn't terribly surprising in a modern superhero movie. Neither is Smith sympathetic to a point villain. Nor, for that matter, is Leto's bland hero, whose most distinctive aspect is the demanding physical transformation the actor underwent for the role. No, the only really surprising, and, therefore, the most disappointing thing about Morbius is the fact that it's an honest-to-goodness horror film. But only for a few seconds. I'm struggling to think of a movie that sabotages its action set pieces as much as Morbius does. The choice of camera angles, camera movements, and shot composition throughout make it so difficult to see what is happening. Excessive use of shaky cam, extreme close-ups, and slow motion are so detrimental to creating a cohesive cinematic experience here. Even a bad comic book movie usually has exciting visuals, but Morbius tarnishes the few rare moments of success in this department with its overzealous, thoughtless execution. It's safe to say most people wouldn't expect miracles when it comes to the script here, but it's worse than we ever imagined. The origin story narrative is incredibly cliché and formulaic, with offensively on-the-nose dialogue, and plot holes scattered throughout like a minefield. I'm no expert, but I definitely have some doubts about the science behind Morbius's transformation. The script is hastily cobbled together, with some pretty poor editing across the board. We begin with a brief scene in Costa Rica, before whiplashing back 25 years, and then forward to an awards ceremony which happens to be in the original timeline. Only, we're not actually told that. We're just left to cobble together the loose bits of dialogue in a lab some time later, reflecting on his trip to Costa Rica, and the fish stink of bats he's gained. There are so many plot contrivances, holes and leaps of logic, that make this film difficult to take seriously. The focus here shifts between Morbius to two throwaway police detectives who investigate Morbius, and a string of murders across the runtime, but hey, actually do nothing of note. In fact, by the end of the movie their arc essentially amounts to nothing, wasting a good portion of this movie to dead-end police work. A lot of flack is ultimately going to be leveled against Jared Leto, but to be honest, he's actually quite good in this role, and does the best with the material given. Matt Smith is flamboyantly sinister, and really revels in his role as the villain in this ensemble, while everyone else is just sort of here for